welcome to A Day to Be Me. I'm Darian.
Alexander Hodge.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Sarah, Callie Cox.
And I'm Andy.
Today we are going to be talking about Stoicism. Alex can take it away.
All
Yep.
right. So, Stoicism. Talk about Stoicism. And Stoicism is the teaching of acting in accordance with nature and the ability to separate one's own behavior from anxiety and anger and negative emotion from neurosis, for being able to um, remain calm even when, and also happy even when things are happening around us. So, like today, I'm out here today for a reason. I decided to do it at the park today because I figured acting in accordance with nature and stoicism. So I don't know if you can see what I'm looking at here.
Yeah.
I'm out
I
here
can
by
see.
the river, and there's a reason that I chose to come out here today. Because I'm practicing my stoicism, being able to detach. Because I just lost a couple competitions today, so as Callie knows me very well, I'm a very competitive person.
So am
So
I.
I've encountered a little bit of negative emotion from this. So as a result, in response to that, I decided to detach and come out here and rekindle my fire, being able to meditate and be peaceful and come out here and just simplify things and enjoy what's around me.
Okay,
Being able to separate my stress behavior from stress
I like
itself.
camping.
so Alex, what are the different areas of focus under the topic of Stoicism?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the different ways, the different areas that we can focus on with practicing Stoicism, I think let's talk about that one, is being able to putting ourselves in this might sound counterintuitive, but being able to build our tolerance level by putting ourselves in stressful situations and then learning how to deal with them
Cope with
in a stoic way. So that means either it be meditation or a physical practice, either it be exercise, a healthy coping strategy
Yeah.
to detach and act in accordance with nature. Um, this is why I don't stim and cope with my phone as much anymore. What I'll do instead is that I replace that with a healthier, more natural way of coping. So I come out here and go out for a walk and act in harmony with nature. How's it going?
One with the land.
So, and to practice stoicism, this is one of the ways to do it. Stoicism is also about, if those of you could research this, about Taoism. And the Taoism is the way. It is the way of nature. It is the way that things naturally come into place. And instead of trying to change it, instead of trying to, let's
Force
say,
it.
row against the current, you see that goose down there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Notice that he's not going anywhere. He's going against the current, but he's not moving. So he is in the act of rowing instead of the act of sailing. So, however, that goose is, however, going somewhere. Notice that he's actually going towards the shore. So he's still sailing, as most animals in nature do. They
like
don't
birds.
stim or try to change things that are outside of our control, that
Can't
are outside of their
force it.
control. human beings, I think one of the faults that we have of as conscious as we are as humans, the way that our brains work, one of the downfalls of that is that we really try hard to change things that are outside of our control and things that we physically can't control, like the behavior of others on occasion.
Yep.
Things can happen in relationships that are outside of our control. That's somebody else's decision.
Yes.
That's outside of my control. What is within my control is my reaction to it. How do I act in the eternal now? That either can it aim up or can I aim down? Can I try to attach myself and control what's outside of my control, or do I respond in a way that I can control and do stuff that I know I have control over
Then
instead
stuff
of
that
trying
I
to change
can't.
things that are outside of my control? Like, say, if a woman or your man cheats on you,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
that's a
Yep.
relationship situation that you're not in control of. With
Nope.
nature doesn't care. You're not in control of that. The decisions that they made is outside of your realm of control. There's some real utility in that,
Mm.
in
Yes.
knowing this. How, and then you got to ask yourself, okay, what am I in control of here? I can leave this person. I don't have to. I don't have to. I can detach and maintain with what I'm in control of,
Yep.
and move up from there.
You respond to how you have all the control over how you respond to these situations. I want to personally ask you, Alex, how have you uh, practiced Stoicism in your life?
Say again.
How have you practiced Stoicism in your life? What are some examples that you have done?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, for example, at work, I get a customer who is acting up because they have a problem. They have a
Mm-hmm.
problem that I don't know much about. They might be dealing with something that I don't know much about, and that is outside of my ecosystem, and they're getting shitty with me. That's a stressful situation.
Yes.
So instead of the anti-stoic, where I would fire back at that person,
Enrage.
instead of reacting on a reactive level, like reactive armor, that's where the ego starts to come out and manifest itself. No, I subordinate my ego, and it's a stressful situation. I take a breath. I physically stand up straight, take a breath, and nod in the affirmative and say, okay, what can I do to help to solve this problem? So that's one of the ways that I practice my stoicism every day is at my job. I work retail at a hardware store. People come in with problems. Sometimes
Oh
a
yeah.
item that got delivered got damaged, or it was mishandled, or they got the wrong hinge on the door. This can also be useful in dangerous situations with people. Being able to
Yes.
be
It can.
stoic as like almost like a warrior mentality when you're in a dangerous situation with somebody, how to stay calm. And people know, they can tell who's somebody who's trained mentally in these situations. It's a stoicism is also a form of mental toughness that people can tell if you're stoic and are able to hold yourself up and stand up for yourself, because there's some real utility in being able to do that. One of the other ways, the third thing I want to say is another way that I'm planning to practice my stoicism, and this might sound a little out of the ordinary, but
Mm-hmm.
I used to weigh a lot. and I'm uncomfortable. Sometimes I'm uncomfortable in my own skin. Like I used to get very uncomfortable in the changing room at school because I had a lot of fat on me, and I knew, and so did they, and some of them attacked it. So one of the ways that I'm planning to practice my stoicism on that is put myself in a situation where I have to face that again. So this summer, when it gets warmer, one of the ways that I'm going to practice my stoicism and meditation is I'm planning to go to a nudist colony. And
Absolutely.
that's going to put myself in a situation where I am fully exposed, nude, walking through the park. There's
Nude
going to be other people there.
beaches.
There's going to be other people there who are also naked and exposed, who are probably also practicing stoicism. Who knows? And one of the ways that I'm mentally preparing again is studying stoicism, how to separate my behavior um, from my emotion, how to separate my behavior from my emotion, and also putting myself in that situation to practice my stoicism in the first place. Actually, going out in the field and experiencing this, and a little nervous because I'm still that boy. I'm still that fat kid that was in the wrestling locker room. You know.
Yep.
So I want, and the thing is that it's my choice to do this. It is within my realm of control to choose to do this, which is which helps a lot. I'm not being forced to do this. This is something that I'm doing of my own volition, and this within the realm of my control. That I can finally face this.
Let's give Andy a time to speak.
Yeah.
Sure. Sure. I was just sitting back and listening. And from what I remember of studying Stoicism and kind of going over everything, um, this is a philosophy that was developed in way back ancient Greece. Okay. So this has very deep roots. And I believe it was created by a man named Zeno of Citium, who lived on the island of Cyprus. So, in looking at it and kind of going back over it, everything that Alex is talking about, in my mind, relates more to a neo-Stoic or neo-Stoicism, which is post. Um, it's like post Renaissance. And anything before the Renaissance and that mindset, um, it just simply does not, in my mind, as a former therapist and somebody who's been doing social services, it doesn't equate as something that everybody can do. Because one of the major things is Stoicism at its core asks us to separate our emotions from ourselves. And
Disconnect.
we are we're human beings, and our emotions are something that we should embrace. Um, Alex does bring up some good points about finding those Zen moments to come to terms with emotion and how we can live our life in a view of how do I move through this. And that, again, that to me is neo Stoicism. Um, Also, very brave of you, Alex, to go ahead and want to jump into a nudist colony because woo, buddy, I would not.
Nudist beach. Kill a kill.
I would not want to do that.
Yeah.
But that to me is a huge thing. That's like it's almost like immersion therapy. Have you guys ever heard of immersion therapy?
I think I briefly heard about it. Isn't that where if they have a fear of something, you gradually expose them, immerse them in the experience gradually?
Right. Yeah. It could be gradually, or it can be just all out.
Oh,
Um,
straight
Like
in,
the
jump straight in. I
military.
do that. I do that on occasion with some of my friends that are afraid to swim.
yeah. Yeah, I was just going through, and Maury Povich actually used to do immersion therapy on his show.
What's it
it,
called?
the Maury Povich show,
All right.
right?
Jerry Springer.
So, but going back to Stoicism here, and I've got a few notes pulled up. Um, Going through and looking at the tenets of Stoicism. Uh, it's basically, I mean, it's not something that can work for everybody. When you're going through and you're finding a philosophy for yourself that can work for your situation, it's always a good idea to kind of study how you want to approach life. Because if you want to go through and you want to be a stoic in the classical sense, that's fine, but you need to understand that it's not always easy to separate emotion from being human, and that living absolutely by virtue isn't always possible. Um, there's a lot of this being just a black and white philosophy. So I don't know. In my mind, I would say pick pick the pieces that work for you, and kind of develop your own philosophical
Person.
viewpoint. Because there's just some things in here that don't, in my mind, they just don't work in the modern world. It
Hmm.
just doesn't.
Well, I think one of the things that might work on top of that is living by the virtuous. But I think it's also by being able to integrate the shadow, like what Carl Jung talks about the ability to integrate the shadow of our vices into our personality.
Right.
There's some utility in that, in being able to become a monster, so to speak, have the weapons to bear, and yet control them.
Right. And
It's
and
about understanding what's within the realm of our control.
right. And that to me is a good that's a good mashup of a few different philosophies, because if you're going full stoicism, the traditional stoic would say no, don't do that, because that's letting some emotion in, and as a stoic we don't want that. But
Too much emotion can
yeah,
be bad.
But emotion is a natural energy. It's a natural
right.
right.
Right, and the
So
neo Stoics, I think, the neo Stoicism, it kind of introduces the idea of emotions being that natural identity or natural energy. But traditional Stoics from ancient Greece would say, no, absolutely not. Don't do that.
yep.
Darian,
Yeah.
do you have anything you want to
And I
add?
think in modern times we know this now.
Yeah.
So we've learned to the point of, like you were saying, emotion is actually a natural, the way of nature. So I think the integration of our vices is just as important as the virtues.
Right.
So
I absolutely agree.
let's give Darian and Kev a chance to talk. Darian, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah.
I was, I don't know really of any type of thing I'd used stoicism before in my life. It's been kind of a bumpy road, but
Mm-hmm. And I used to break tons of PS2 controllers, and then when I found out how expensive they were, I finally came to realization I can't do that. Just, I should have let my anger get to me.
There are definitely ways that we can um, learn to. As Eddie said, it's not for everyone, but
Yeah.
there are ways that we can learn to separate our emotions from a certain trigger that is going on. and think about it rationally. You just have to figure out what works best for you.
Yeah, what's always best for you.
Well, this is
Yeah,
concluding our podcast. Again, this was a day to be me. Thank you for joining in, and we will see you next time.
yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye.
See ya.